Muhammad from Indonesia.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, before I knew music is haram, I used to listen to many Japanese songs and I used to sing them a lot. The lyrics themselves contain no haram element, rather they usually contain good values like kindness, etc. Now that I refrain from music, can I still sing them or is this imitating the disbelievers? Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh.
Wa jazakum. If the lyrics are fine and you're just singing the lyrics like a poem and the likes without listening to music, without this making you want to listen to it again, there is no problem, inshallah. It's not imitating the disbelievers. Marwa from Algiers.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah.
So my question is like I have a situation where my sister is really, we could say like deviant and all that, and like she used like some months ago she like sold the family phones to resell them like to get money and all that. Recently I like argued with her and she said some
The line is breaking, ya Marwa. What is your question?
The question is that my sister, like, she stole like things from the family, and now like she resold them, and I found money like on her, not on her, like on the ground, but I know it's from her, and now it's with me, and she don't know like it's with me, and what should I do? Like, am I sinful for taking the money, even though I know it's like?
Are you certain 100% beyond doubt that she stole money from the family?
Yeah, of course, like she admitted it.
Okay, and the family
She resold the phones, but
the family,
like
listen. Did the family forgive her, or they're asking her to pay them back?
Like they don't know because she hides it, you know.
If she confessed of it, okay. Let me answer generally speaking. This is known in the books of fiqh as when you find what was stolen from you and you're capable of retrieving some of it or all of it from the one who oppressed you and you can't prove it and you can't return it from him. For example, a government official comes and steals your property, steals your wealth, steals your money. You go to the police, you go to the ruler, nobody is listening, or they simply don't care or don't want, because he's a government official. He's higher than you. Who are you? You're nothing. So this is confirmed. He stole my wealth. He owes me $1 million. Few months, years later, I happen to see him walking, coming out from the bank, and he drops a suitcase without knowing, and he gets into the car and drives away. I look around, nobody's there, no CCTV cameras, nowhere I can be incriminated or accused. I walk to the suitcase, I take possession of it and go to my home. I open it and I find $100,000 or $1 million, the same amount or less. So I say to myself, what should I do? The books of fiqh, they differ. The most authentic opinion is, if you have 100% proof that he stole, and that's a given, and you find the money that he has in his possession, and you can take possession of it without being incriminated or prosecuted, then you can take it and keep it. But in your case, Marwa, we have to understand what she stole. Was it hers? Was it the family and she had a share in it? Did they forgive her? Did they say, okay, we forgive you, you can keep it? In addition to the money you found, is it definitely hers? And if you're sure and certain it's hers, does it fall within the amount that she stole, or is it more? And what are you going to do with it? Are you going to keep it for yourself? What makes you better than her? Because as if you stole the items and sold them and you took the money for yourself. This money should be shared with the other family members who they themselves were robbed and deprived of their belongings. So there are so many aspects to be looked into. So I hope this answers your question. Sami from the Netherlands.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
What do I do when I get, for example, a wet dream? I have to perform ghusl. I wake up and I discover, for example, the shower is like not working, or it only provides very cold water. Like, what do I do in this situation?
In the case of the absence of water, not only in your home, but I cannot go to an adjacent building or to a hotel room or somewhere in the city to get access of water. No, if I am totally stranded and don't have access to water, or I have access to water, but it is so cold and freezing that if I use it, I may die or I'll be harmed by it. In this case, alhamdulillah, we have the concession of tayammum. And tayammum is dry ablution, where we strike the ground or the soil with our hands once, we wipe our faces, and we wipe our hands. That's it. This uplifts the major impurity and the major ritual impurity and the minor ritual impurity as well, for ghusl and for wudu. But if you say, I am in Amsterdam, Schiphol Airport is next door, I could go and get a motel room for maybe 50 euros or 100 euros, I can get hot showers and use it. In this case, you must go and pay for it, because you live in a place where you can get water. You cannot do tayammum when next door or 5-10 minutes drive, you can have access to water. You cannot say, oh, I don't have water, I can make tayammum. No, in this case, you have to go and pay for it.